And at that point, he looked up and he screamed, "She killed the fucking kids."
And after he said that, where did you go?
She killed the kids. 3 words, screamed from the basement of a house on Summer Street in Duxbury, Massachusetts. And within the next 60 seconds, 2 police officers would find out exactly what that meant. This is day 3 of the Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Case number tried before Justice William Sullivan in Plymouth Superior Court. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorneys Jennifer Spragg and Shannon Buckingham. The defense is represented by attorney Kevin Readington. Lindsay Clancy is present in the courtroom. Today, the prosecution calls the first responders. The people who walked through that gate, down those stairs, and into that basement. Not investigators piecing things together days later. The men and women who were there when it was still happening. And what they describe, one witness at a time, is a scene that builds on itself in a way that no single sentence can fully prepare you for. We start with Officer Stephen Hall, 10-year veteran of the Duxbury Police Department, working the 4 to midnight shift on January 24, 2023. He receives a dispatch at approximately
Further directing your attention to approximately 6:11 p.m. At that time, did you receive a dispatch to go to 47 Summer Street in Duxbury?
I did.
And do you recall approximately where you were when you received that dispatch?
I was at the Lincoln Street Fields in Duxbury.
And so how long did it take you to get from there to 47 Summer Street?
7 to 10 minutes.
6:11 in the evening to respond to 47 Summer Street. He is somewhere near the Lincoln Street Fields when the call comes in. 7 to 10 minutes away. When he arrives, the gate on the left side of the house is already open. He and Officer Brian Josephine arrive at almost exactly the same moment. They hear a male voice calling from the left side of the property.
Okay. And did you encounter a male in the backyard?
Yes.
And did you later learn his name was Patrick Clancy?
I did.
What was his demeanor?
He was upset. Didn't know what was going on. So.
And did you see anyone else in the backyard?
No.
Okay. Did you see anyone on the ground?
Yes.
And who was on the ground?
Miss Clancy.
Is that Lindsay Clancy?
Yes.
And do you see her in the courtroom today?
I do.
Could you point?
So that is where they go. In the backyard, they find 2 people. A man named Patrick Clancy, who is visibly upset and, according to Hall, didn't really know what was going on, and a woman on the ground near the right side of the house, her head toward the house, feet pointing away.
Injuries?
She had cuts to both wrists and to the left side of her neck.
The cuts to her wrists, were those actively bleeding when you saw them?
No, they were not.
When you saw the cuts to her neck, were those actively bleeding?
No.
Did you, based on your training and experience, feel the need to provide any medical care to those cuts or use any of the equipment you had to tend to those cuts?
Not at that time.
Was she conscious?
Semi-conscious, in and out of consciousness.
And what was she doing that gave you that indication?
She would wake up and move around and then kind of just go still again.
And when you say she would move around, what parts of her body was she moving?
Just her head, really.
Was she able to speak to you?
She wasn't, no.
Was she making any sounds?
She was just, it sounded like she was in pain.
So something like moaning or something like that?
Yes.
That woman is Lindsay Clancy, the defendant. Hall approaches her. She is semi-conscious, moving her head, then going still again. She is not able to speak. She is making sounds that Hall describes as sounding like she is in pain. He observes cuts to both of her wrists and to the left side of her neck. None of them are actively bleeding. Based on his training and his rid of those wounds in the moment, he does not feel an immediate need to apply pressure or use the tourniquet he carries. Sirens. Hall goes to the gate to direct the incoming fire department personnel. Patrick Clancy tells him he is going to go inside to check on his children. He goes in through the back sliding glass door.
Dispatch said that he couldn't wake them up.
And did you know what they were talking about when you initially heard that?
Not really, no.
Did something then catch your attention?
Yeah, I heard a loud scream from inside.
And could you tell where it was coming from?
Just inside the house.
And the screaming, was it words or just sound?
It was just a sound.
When you heard that screaming, what did you do?
Myself and Officer Josephine ran towards the slider and entered into the house.
And when you entered into the house, do you remember what room you entered into?
Into a kitchen.
And when you entered into the kitchen, could you still hear that screaming?
No. We could hear he was talking, but there was screaming was done.
When you said he was talking, who was talking?
Patrick Clancy.
So you could hear Patrick Clancy talking at that time?
Yes.
And could you tell where he was?
Yes, he was in the basement.
Then Hall hears it over the radio. Dispatch relays that Patrick Clancy cannot wake the children up. Hall does not fully register what that means at first. Then, from inside the house, a loud scream. Hall and Josephine run to the slider and enter through the kitchen. The screaming has stopped, but they can hear Patrick Clancy's voice coming from below them. From the basement, they go to the stairs. Down.
Do you recall him saying, "I can't wake them up, I can't get them up"?
Yes.
And do you remember his demeanor as he was saying that?
At the bottom, they can go right or left. They go right because that is where his voice is coming from. The room at the bottom right looks like a workout space, exercise equipment, resistance bands tied to a closet door. And at the back of that room, Patrick Clancy, screaming words that Hall, even on the stand years later, struggles to say out loud. I can't wake them up. I can't get them up. Hall and Josephine move past him into the back room. And just past the doorway, on the left side of the room, there is a child on the floor. On his back, feet toward the door, head toward the wall, shirtless, a diaper or some kind of underwear, a yellow exercise band nearby on the floor. The child is discolored.
He was discolored, like a bluish purple.
Do you remember what his face and neck looked like?
No.
What happened next?
I called for paramedics to come to the basement. I also called for a supervisor, and Officer Josephine picked up the child, and we ran him outside through the front door to the ambulance.
And did you do anything after that, after giving Dawson to EMTs?
We ran back down into the basement to check to see if we could find other children.
Blue-purple. Hall calls for paramedics to come to the basement. Officer Josephine picks the child up and they run. Through the house, out the front door, to the ambulance waiting in the driveway. That child, Hall would later learn, was Dawson Clancy, 3 years old. They hand Dawson to the EMTs and then they run back because Patrick Clancy had said them. Not him, not her. Them.
And what made you think there were other children to find?
When Patrick Clancy said, well, I can't wake them up, instead of just a singular.
And so when you went back inside, did you go back down the basement stairs?
Correct.
And this time, did you go to the left?
Hall and Josephine go back down the stairs. This time, they go left. And on the left side of the basement, there are 2 more children on the floor. Motionless. Paramedics are already working on them. Their names, Hall would later learn, are Cora Clancy and Callen Clancy, 5 years old and 8 months old. Officer Hall will eventually go back outside to where Lindsay Clancy is still on the ground. He looks up and notices an open second-story window. Blood marks on the window frame. Blood marks on the shingles below it. Then we move to the second officer on scene, Brian Josephine, school resource officer, 5 years at Plymouth PD before joining Duxbury. He picks up an overtime shift on January 24th, scheduled to work 4 to 8 in the evening. Josephine arrives at 47 Summer Street approximately 3 to 4 minutes after the dispatch goes out. He takes a different approach than Hall. going around the garage from the right side of the house, over a fence, into the backyard. With his flashlight illuminating the yard, he sees two people. One standing, one on the ground. He makes his way toward the far right of the house. Patrick Clancy notices the flashlight, turns, and the two of them cross paths near the bulkhead. According to Josephine, Clancy passes him quickly, with a cell phone in his left hand, moving toward the deck. He doesn't say anything to Josephine. Josephine goes to Lindsay Clancy. He tries to ask her basic questions about where she is hurt. She mumbles, but gives no clear answers. He observes cuts to her right wrist and right side of her neck, not profusely bleeding. He assesses her wounds as not life-threatening at that moment. Then it's the same moment Hall described. The screaming from the basement. Josephine and Hall are standing near that second floor window when they hear it. They go in through the sliding glass doors, through the kitchen, down the stairs. At the bottom, the screaming is coming from the right. They go right, and that is when Patrick Clancy, coming out of the back room, looks up and sees them, and he screams the words that will echo through this entire trial. She killed the kids. Once Clancy clears the doorway, Josephine and Hall can see into the back room. Dawson is on the floor, on his back. Josephine describes what he sees when he looks at the child's face.
Like I said, he was laying on his back. His head was tilted to the right-hand side. Looked at him kind of in the face area once we got closer, and his face was white, gray, lips were blue, eyes were bloodshot. Looked like blood vessels were popped in his eyes.
Did you notice any injuries to his neck?
Seeing that, my first instinct was to kind of grab his head and tilt it to the side, see if I could get a pulse. But, I mean, based on my training experience from previous incidents, I knew it wasn't going to be good. So I moved the head. That's where I observed some red marks on that right-hand side.
Of the neck?
Yes.
White, gray, lips blue, eyes bloodshot, blood vessels burst. And when Josephine gently tilts the child's head to check for a pulse, he sees red marks on the right side of the neck. Josephine picks Dawson up, chest to chest, and carries him up out of the basement and out of the house. As he does, something comes out of the child's mouth.
Based on my observations, I knew there wasn't really much I could do. So I picked the child up, went chest to chest, and as I did that, it was kind of like a mucus or a foam that leaked out of his mouth onto me. I grabbed him, went back towards the way we came down into the basement, and I headed up to the stairs where Sergeant Homestead was coming down the stairs, and I started yelling to him to get out of the way. Went back up the stairs and then into the kitchen, directly adjacent to the stairs. There's the front foyer, like hallway, and I went out the main door into the driveway.
A foam or mucus. He keeps moving. Up the stairs, through the kitchen, out the front door. Sergeant Homestead is on the stairs coming down, and Josephine yells for him to get out of the way. Outside, in the driveway, EMT Loring Nudd, who everyone calls Chuck, has just backed the ambulance in. He was in the process of pulling a stretcher out of the back when he sees Josephine coming out of the house with the child. He says, "Over here." Dawson is placed on the stretcher and rolled immediately into the back of the ambulance. Nudd, a 30-year veteran of the Duxbury Fire Department, now retired, describes what he sees when the child is laid in front of him. Blue face, marks around the neck, pale body. CPR begins immediately.
Were you able to make observations of the child as he's being placed on the stretcher?
I was.
What did he look like?
So his face was blue. He had marks around his neck, and his body was pale.
Josephine goes back inside. He remembers Patrick Clancy used a plural, multiple children. He goes back down to the left side of the basement. He finds Cora and an infant. He begins chest compressions on Cora. At some point, Officer Cahill comes down to assist, taking over compressions while Josephine uses a bag valve mask to try to get air into her lungs. Now the courtroom hears from Captain P.J. Hussey, shift commander for Duxbury Fire, 17-year paramedic, 32 years on the department. He is in the backyard supervising the treatment of Lindsay Clancy when he hears the scream from inside the house. He turns and looks through the basement window, the one that sits below ground level at the right side of the house. The light is on inside. What he sees through that window is this: an older male, later identified as Patrick Clancy.
No.
After I heard the scream, I saw a older male gentleman, now knowing it was Patrick Clancy, unwrapping something from a child's head.
And when you saw the male unwrapping something, can you demonstrate the motion that they were doing?
Yeah, the child was on the ground. The head was towards the window, so the head was towards the back of the house, and he picked the child up, and he was in a circular motion, taking something off the head, around the neck.
And could you see the child's face?
Yes.
And what observations did you make of the child's face?
The head was blue.
Crouching over a child on the floor, the child's head is toward the window, toward the back of the house, and the man is unwrapping something from around the child's neck in a circular motion. Hussey demonstrates the motion in court, hands moving around and around. The child's face, visible from where Hussey is standing outside, is blue. That is the moment Hussey calls for a full recall of off-duty Duxbury personnel. That is the moment he requests a second ambulance through mutual aid. Then a third. The scene, in his words, turned very chaotic very quickly. Paramedic Keith Nettie arrives on his own, called in on a day off.
Blue, white, non-responsive, not breathing, no pulse.
And this particular patient, did you come to learn him to be the child named Dawson Clancy?
Yes.
And he was approximately 3 years old?
Yes.
What kind of treatment did you and the paramedic Heath offer to Dawson in the back of the ambulance? What did you do?
Driving his personal truck, he walks up the driveway and gets directly into the back of the ambulance where Dawson is being worked on. His initial assessment of the child is clinical and immediate. Blue. White. Non-responsive. Not breathing. No pulse. He and firefighter Kevin Heath try to start an IV. When that fails, they use an IO, which is...
We try to start an IV, but then we also started an IO, which is kind of like an IV. Tried intubation, which is an advanced airway, medications, and continued CPR.
So an IV, that's just putting a needle into somebody and trying to pump fluids in medicine, correct?
Correct.
Tell us what an IO is.
An IO is interosseous, which is basically into the bone marrow on the lower leg.
So what do you do to try to enter an IO?
Usually we have a drill, but we had a manual one instead.
So what do you do with the manual drill to enter the IO?
You just twist, and then it goes into the bone.
And what bone do you attempt to do this in? And were you able to enter that IO into Dawson?
Yes.
What is the purpose of the IO versus the IV?
If the patient has difficult access, which pediatrics do.
And in this circumstance, what kinds of medication were you trying to deliver through the IO to Dawson?
Epinephrine.
What's the purpose of epinephrine?
Basically kind of helps to restart the heart.
And at this point, he had no heart activity?
Correct.
You also mentioned attempts to intubate. Can you tell us what that means?
So intubation is an advanced airway where you put a tube into the airway to secure it to deliver high flow oxygen.
Were you able to intubate Dawson?
Yes, Kevin Heath did.
And what do you do when you enter the tool to intubate?
You go into the mouth and you do a motion of pulling up to see the vocal cords so you can pass the tube through.
And what do you attach to the tube to try to increase the breath?
Oxygen and BVM, which is basically you're squeezing a bag.
So BVM would stand for bag valve mask?
Correct.
While you were treating Dawson and doing the airway, intubating him, giving him the medicines, were you able to observe anything about the area of his neck?
Yes.
What did you observe about his neck?
Dark red marks around his neck.
Is a manual device that drills directly into the bone marrow of the lower leg to deliver medication when veins are inaccessible. They get it in. They push epinephrine, trying to restart the heart. They intubate, securing the airway with a tube and forcing oxygen in with a bag valve mask. While doing all of this, Nettie is close to the child's neck, close enough to observe dark red marks around it. No pulse is ever found on the ride to the hospital. Firefighter Jennifer Stratton and Patrick Dwyer are on the engine out of Station 2 when the dispatch comes in. They arrive at the scene a few minutes after the ambulance crew.
And at that point, did you hear something?
We did. Heard a voice yelling for us to get inside of the house, that there was a kid hanging in the basement.
And did you go into the house?
We did.
And what entrance did you go in?
Through the slider doors in the rear.
And did that lead you into the kitchen?
Yes.
And then did you proceed to the basement?
Yes.
When you got down to the basement, down the basement stairs, would it be accurate to state that you can either go right or left?
Yes.
Which direction did you go?
We took a left.
And
They head toward the backyard, and almost immediately, someone yells for them to get inside. There is a kid in the basement. They go through the sliding glass doors, through the kitchen, and down the stairs. They go left, and when they get to the left side of the basement, they find Cora and Callen on the floor. Patrick Clancy is sitting on a couch nearby. Stratton goes to Callen, the 8-month-old. She checks for a pulse. There is none. She starts chest compressions immediately.
after that?
I didn't remove his entire onesie right away. Made sure that checked him for a pulse. He did not have one. Immediately started chest compressions on him.
Now, for this is an 8-month-old baby,
Yes.
correct? Is the way you do chest compressions for a baby different than other people, other ages?
Yes, because of the size, you have to scoop your arms around and you compress with your thumbs in the side.
I'll allow it.
So you said you have to put your hands underneath on the back of the child and then use your thumbs to do compressions?
Yes.
And is that what you did for Callen?
With an infant that's small, she has to position both arms under the child and use her thumbs. She tells the jury this. She is matter of fact about it. She keeps going until more help arrives. When she removes his onesie to try for IV access in his legs, she sees it. Deep strangulation marks around the entire circumference of his neck. Multiple attempts are made to get medication into Callen through the bone. None are successful.
While you were working on Callen, did you notice any injuries on him?
Yes, he had deep strangulation marks around the entire circumference of his neck.
And throughout the entire time that you're in the basement, are chest compressions being done, and you're trying to assist him with breathing?
Yes.
Did he, in the home, ever gain a pulse or the ability to breathe?
No, he did not.
Was he eventually taken to the ambulance?
Yes.
And how was he removed from the basement and brought to the ambulance?
I scooped him up in my arms and carried him outside to the truck.
And did you go with him in that transport to the hospital?
Yes.
And at any point in time, did he regain the ability to breathe or heartbeat during that transport?
No, he did.
Eventually, when enough personnel have arrived, Stratton scoops him up in her arms and carries him out of the basement to the waiting Kingston ambulance. Callen Clancy does not regain a heartbeat on the way to the hospital. Cora Clancy, the 5-year-old, is worked on by Patrick Dwyer while Stratton is with Callen. Dwyer describes her appearance the same way everyone describes these children: pale, bluish lips, bloodshot eyes with burst blood vessels. And when he gets close enough to check blood in and around her mouth, he does chest compressions. Others come and help. Eventually they get her onto a backboard and up the bulkhead stairs with help from Marshfield fire personnel, who have arrived through mutual aid. She is loaded into a Marshfield ambulance. She is shocked once with a defibrillator on the way to the hospital. Cora Clancy does not regain a heartbeat either. Now the defense gets a turn, and Attorney Readington, for most of these witnesses, has nothing. No cross-examination, no challenge. He passes, repeatedly. These are the people who were there in that basement, and the defense has no questions for them. There is one exception. Robert Costanzo, a Pembroke paramedic who responds as mutual aid and transports Lindsay Clancy to South Shore Hospital. On cross-examination, Readington asks about the darkness in the backyard that night. The cold, the fact that temperatures were in the 30s, possibly lower. He raises the concept of hypothermia.
So all these questions about whether or not there's blood seeping through the wrist bandages and whether or not there's blood through the holes on the neck brace, you don't know what effect the hypothermia, if any, had on that, would you?
No.
Thank you, sir.
And its effect on blood clotting. The point he is trying to build toward is this: the wounds on Lindsay Clancy's wrists and neck were not seriously bleeding. But could that be because her body temperature had dropped from lying on the frozen ground? Could the cold have slowed the bleeding on its own? It is a reasonable question. Costanzo acknowledges that hypothermia does affect blood flow. He does not know what effect, if any, it had on Lindsay Clancy specifically. He cannot say.
And are you aware that the wounds on her wrist did not have to be sutured until the following day?
I didn't get any of that information after.
Were you aware that the wound on her neck never had to be sutured?
Same answer.
Thank you.
Anything further?
But then on redirect, the prosecution asks one question that lands cleanly. Was Costanzo aware that the wound on her wrist did not have to be sutured until the following day? He was not. Was he aware that the wound on her neck never had to be sutured at all? He was not. The wounds were real. But the prosecution is making a point with those answers that the jury can work out on their own. The final officer called today is Vincent Cahill, Duxbury Police, on patrol that evening. He arrives at 47 Summer Street within minutes of the dispatch. He goes inside, down the stairs, and turns left. He checks Cora for a pulse. No pulse. He backs up and bumps into Callen on the floor behind him. He checks Callen. No pulse. He moves furniture to give the paramedics more room to work. He brings equipment. He assists with rescue breaths for Cora. He is also the officer assigned to maintain the crime scene entry and exit log for the rest of the night, documenting every person who comes and goes from that property. The log is admitted into evidence. At the end of the day, the judge addresses a scheduling issue with counsel that will take some time to resolve. Rather than keep the jury waiting, he excuses them for the afternoon and tells them to return at 9 the following morning. The next day, they will take a bus trip with the judge, attorneys, and court officers to the locations described in the testimony. 47 Summer Street is one of them. The jury files out with their notebooks closed. And the courtroom, for a moment, is just a room. What today accomplished is not a single dramatic reveal. It is something harder to watch than that. It is the accumulation of ordinary professional acts, officers doing what they are trained to do, paramedics doing what they are trained to do, firefighters doing what they are trained to do, all of it aimed at 3 children on the floor of a basement in a house that looked, from the outside, like any other house on Summer Street. Every first responder on that scene tonight described the same injuries. Marks on the necks, bloodshot eyes, blood vessels burst, children who were not breathing and had no pulse. And they all tried, every one of them, compressions, IO access, epinephrine, bag valve masks, defibrillation, manual drills into bone. Dawson Clancy, 3 years old. Cora Clancy, 5 years old. Callen Clancy, 8 months old. Not one of them made it to the hospital with a heartbeat. When court resumes tomorrow, the jury will stand in that backyard. They will see the window with the blood marks. They will see the gate that was open. They will see the bulkhead stairs. They will stand in the same place Captain Hussey stood when he looked through the basement window and watched a man unwrapping something from around a child's neck. And then they will come back to this courtroom, and the Commonwealth will continue building its case. Day 3 is over. The record reflects what these first responders found.